education is the continuous reconstruction of experiences. Real education should awaken the individual to a higher level of consciousness and understanding, leading to a state of wisdom and virtue. Authentic education is that which enables one to stand on one's own legs. Ladies and gentlemen, dear jury, opponents, good morning. Today is a very special day to me, an occasion like no other to speak my mind on a critical issue our country has been facing. Should the Moroccan government adopt privatization in education? But before we dive into deeper waters, I'd like you all to imagine a time machine, because today we're traveling through time. Going back to when I first got knowledge of our motion, an existential question dawned on me. What's the relationship between education and economy? I'll spare you some time and get to the point. According to Bowles and Gentis, the education system is a reflection of the organization of production in a capitalist society. There is a deeply rooted correlation between the nature of work and the nature of schooling. And in compliance with our two authors' sayings, inequalities in education are the inevitable results of capitalist relations of production, in which the means of production are privately owned. After this little sociology class, a little flashback in history. Plato regards education as a means to achieve both individual and social justice. Now please do allow me to expound on my thoughts. Justice will never be served and different social classes will never be equal education-wise, whether it is nationalized or privatized. A little ironic, isn't it? Now, dear opponents, my question is simple. Do you see the pattern here? Because I can already tell that one of your most prominent arguments will be privatization of education will give rise to inequalities between different social classes, an argument that has just been destroyed. Against all expectations, privatization of education has many benefits we tend to overlook. In addition to the increased parental involvement in children's education, excellent extracurricular activities, example given, debates, privatization of education allows the reduction of the government's borrowing and the demand for the government's resources. On top of that, it promotes competition and efficiency and the generation of additional government revenues by receiving compensations for privatizations. Moreover, a study conducted by Falsey and Haynes in 1984 indicates that students who graduate from private schools are much more likely to enroll in college than public school graduates are. I feel like I've spoken enough. I'll give voice to facts now. The evidence says that 1, privatization increases access to basic educations. Where government schools are failing or simply non-existing, low-cost private schools have emerged and seem like a promising avenue to deliver basic education to the poor. 2, it improves overall learning efficiency and outcomes. In developing countries, students in private schools seem to achieve higher results and learning outcomes than their counterparts in public schools, even when accounting for the socioeconomic status background. Now please, dear audience, let us, Government's House, enlighten you furthermore on how privatized education has much more benefits than downsides. And please, do not let yourself be fooled by our opponents' fine words. That everybody knows how that ends. Do not be lured by their sirens' call. These evil creatures lure passing sailors with their melodies to sharp reefs where their ships would crash. Greedy for human illusion, they then would devour the castaways with their misconceptions about privatized education. Thank you.
Firstly, as an answer to the Prime Minister, education should not be a business. In the wise words of Nelson Mandela, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Dear Assembly, members of the jury, may you have a wonderful morning. Allow me to begin by acknowledging the allure of privatization, painted with promises of efficiency and innovation. It's an appealing canvas, reminiscent of a masterpiece. Yet, when we delve into the brushstrokes, we find a mural that threatens the very fabric of our educational system. Firstly, let us consider the paradox that privatization often exacerbates educational inequality. While proponents argue that privatization will drive excellence, reality and sense tells a different tale. The market-driven approach tends to favor those with means, relegating quality education to the privileged few. It's ironic that an endeavor meant to enhance accessibility might inadvertently widen the chasm of disparity, leaving the marginalized on the periphery of knowledge. Furthermore, the mantra of efficiency masks the true cost, both social and educational. Privatization, in its relentless pursuit of profit, risks transforming education into a transaction rather than an investment in our shared future. Education is not only about acquiring knowledge, it is also a means of preserving cultural identity. The privatization of education might introduce foreign curricula and teaching methodologies that dilute Morocco's unique cultural and historical narratives. The risk of losing the essence of Moroccan identity in the pursuit of global educational standards is a concern that cannot be overlooked. As Albert Einstein wisely said, everybody is a genius. But if... Yes? Yes, but let me tell you, did you ever see scholarships in primary school?
No, not right now.
Excuse me, my time is running. As Albert Einstein wisely said, everybody is a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life thinking that it's stupid. The push of standardized competition often neglects the true talents and strengths of our students. Embracing privatization might inadvertently perpetuate a system that evaluates students through a narrow lens, overlooking their unique capabilities. As the Moroccan government contemplates the journey towards privatization in education, it must tread with caution and a discerning eye. The pitfalls of exacerbating inequality, commercializing learning, marginalizing vulnerable communities, and jeopardizing cultural identity are profound. A nation's educational system is the crucible where its future is shaped. And in the pursuit of progress, it is essential not to sacrifice the fundamental principles that anchor Morocco's commitment to accessible, equitable, and culturally rich education. Thank you.
As Moroccan citizens, we tend to always search for what's best for our country, aiming for higher achievements, a better quality of life, a brighter tomorrow. And as a fellow Moroccan, deeply committed to progress and innovation, I find myself confronted with the current state of our country. Unfortunately, in order to lift this situation upward, we must confront the reality that our education system needs improvement. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed juries and fellow debaters, I stand before you today to dive into a topic of paramount importance. The question is simple. Should the Moroccan government embrace privatization to usher in a new era of competition, innovation, and enhanced school performance? Now, let me begin by sharing two stories. The first one introduces us to Ahmed, a lifelong teacher whose journey started with a contract in a public school when he was just 23 years old. Now, as he's turning 60, he reflects on and preparing for his retirement. He finds himself questioning whether he has unintentionally transformed into a teaching robot, working with the same materials and using identical methods throughout his educational endeavor. Now, let me paint a picture with another tale. This time, our protagonist is Zainab, a teacher as well, who started her career at the age of 25 with a position in a private school. The absence of a permanent contract became the catalyst that fueled her spirit of creativity. Approaching her 60s, she reflects on her career that has been anything but robotic. Trying to find her old documents was a big challenge, as she never used them for long. Now, as we reflect on both stories, I want to ask our esteemed opponents that have been wearing the angel's mask for way too long. Which teacher would you prefer having? Ahmed, who chose his stability and comfort throughout the years over the well-education of entire generations, over you, me, us students, or Zainab, who had to go through a path of adaptability and change, prioritizing the student's need in order to survive in an environment full of competition. Your choice here goes beyond our debate. It echoes the core principles guiding the educators, shaping the destiny of our future generations. Furthermore, with the birth of new generations, the need of new ways of teaching becomes essential. Sadly enough, the capacity of public schools in keeping up with the fast-paced changes in mindset fails to satisfy, mainly due to bureaucratic hurdles, outdated structures, and economical problems. In today's tech-driven world, students need modern and adaptable teaching methods provided by all the equipment private schools propose. Our opponents right here are trying to convince you that all they're fighting for is equality. But we came here to expose their selfishness that's been hiding behind their nonsense. As we both study in a private school, they want to keep all that's good in education for themselves. On the other hand, we want everyone to experience the same type of education that we have. Our calling for privatization goes with the belief that quality education should be accessible to anyone, regardless of their status or background. We strive to eradicate the notion that studying in a private school is a mere privilege reserved for a select few. The transformative power of privatization lies not in exclusivity, but in inclusivity. Thank you.
First, dear Prime Minister, you said no. How can you be so sure that the benefits of private schools will still be present in a well-developed public school? And dear Deputy Prime Minister, it is true that our education system is weak, but why are you resolving a problem with yet another problem, which is privatization? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the jury, I would like to welcome you to my government's world, a world where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, a world where you, daughter and son of a low-income family, isn't worthy enough to get a proper free education, a dystopia where schooling becomes a privilege to be sold to the highest bidder. I am saddened to announce this, but I shall inform you of our current situation. We are facing an iceberg, yes, a gigantic one indeed. You, dear passengers, can only see the blue sky that is the so-called innovation competition and performance. But us, the crew, have a clear vision of this giant iceberg. Our government, the rich, arrogant passengers, can only see the tip of this iceberg and aren't as worried as we are, and are trying to convince you that change in our direction will be nothing but a loss of time and effort. But in reality, they are driving us straight to this iceberg, which will cause the sinking of our ship, the demolishment of our country, Morocco. B.B. King once said, and I quote, "The beautiful thing about education is that nobody can take it away from you." Certainly, with privatization, education will be taken. No, stolen from students whose parents don't have the means to pay for their tuition. You may tell me, dear rivals, that there will be affordable schools for everyone. Affordable, yes, perhaps in a world without poverty, inflation, and unemployment. Because let's not forget that out of 4.7 million children in Moroccan schools, at least 2.5 million are kept away, many by parents who simply can't afford to educate them, according to IPSnews.net. Let's not forget that some Moroccan parents are forced to send their children work because, from their perspective, it is more profitable than educating them, according to Humanium.org. Let's not forget that these children's only hope to escape poverty is education. According to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights by the United Nations, there are 30 basic human rights that are recognized around the world. The 26th article of this declaration is none other than the right to education. Not only that, it was stated that education shall be free, at least in the elementary and fundamental stages. So adopting privatization in education and neglecting the public sector is clearly a violation of the Declaration of Human Rights. Yes? I already gave you sources, and I gave you surveys with their proper sources, and you didn't hear me.
It is crucial that the Moroccan government makes the access to education easier for all its citizens and not something exclusive for fortunate and prosperous people, creating injustice and widening the gap between social classes. According to the UNESCO, any private education system based on ability to pay is inequitable. Education can be considered as a bridge between the present and the future. Without a well-constructed bridge that can endure the weight of all Moroccan students, our country will be forcibly behind its precious children. Not one, not two, but millions. Millions that will be forgotten in the past. Millions that will be deprived of their rights. Millions that, without, our country will never be able to reach the sky. As Hillary Clinton says, education isn't a commodity. It is a fundamental human right. It is as vital as the air we breathe, as precious as the sun that gives us life. It is the essence of human progress and the key to our future. Thank you.
If you want good education, go to private schools. If you can't afford it, well, tough luck, but you can still go to a public school. While doing my research, I came across this quote by former governor of Maine and American politician Paul Lepage. A quote that stated something obvious, something that is undoubtedly right in the context of our country, education-wise, of course. I'm obviously referring to our poorly managed public schools here. Schools of which the main objective is to provide education to the majority, and whose objective isn't even achieved at the moment because of the teachers' strike that Morocco is enduring. So, schools, unfortunately, while we are here trying to defend privatization, we're also defending the solution to all education issues that our dear country is facing. So, ladies and gentlemen, dear jury and attendees of this debate, I know it seems like privatizing education cannot be an option, because if it happened, it would also mean that we will eradicate public schools, which, if decided, would require great consideration and unmistakable planning by the government. But if done correctly, then as I said earlier, it would truly be the solution to all of our worries and troubles. Let me explain why that would be the case. First, as we explore the idea of privatizing education, it is crucial to clarify that advocating for such a shift doesn't imply abandoning the principles of access to education. Instead, it invites us to envision a system where competition and innovation become the driving forces behind the transformative educational landscape, and where government intervention ensures inclusivity. And how is inclusivity going to be achieved, you might ask? Subsidies or financial aids. Subsidies will be granted to families in need by the government, ensuring that everyone, regarding... Yes? Can you repeat this? Yes. Can you repeat your question, please? Well, private schools will be available in all areas, including rural areas. So, people that will make these private schools will make sure to put private schools everywhere, so everyone could have access to education, including rural areas. This commitment, or inclusivity, and how is inclusivity going to be achieved, you might ask? Subsidies or financial aids. Subsidies will be granted to families in need by the government, ensuring that everyone, regardless of economic background, will have access to education. This commitment to financial accessibility aims to bridge any potential gaps and make quality education accessible to all. And where will the government get this money for these subsidies, you might ask again? Well, according to Morocco World News, the budget allocated to the education sector in 2023 amounted to 69 billion dirhams. And since government will not have to finance public schools anymore, this money will naturally be assigned to these subsidies. Well, now that I've covered what might be one of your main arguments, dear opponents, I want to dig into the vast benefits of privatization, and most importantly, on how is competition going to play a huge part in enhancing the current conditions of education in Morocco. Because with privatization not being generalized, private schools may not feel the pressure or the urge to innovate or excel, as there is minimal competition and the quality of education may vary. Thank you.
Evil, selfish. You talk about evil and selfish, and you're literally defending social inequality. Education is a human right for all throughout life, and that access must be matched by quality, says the UNESCO. So shall we adopt privatization in such a sensitive domain? Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. The answer is pretty obvious for the reason that, are we willing to sacrifice children, these young souls embodying our future, destined to cradle and serve this nation and contribute to its growth and advancement? These youngsters that represent around 14% of the Moroccan population, according to Statista.com. I believe that education should be accessible to all kids, no matter their social status. Because isn't that the bare minimum? Morocco is our home. Let's be for once selfless and think about other people, the ones who are not able to afford going to private schools and still want a good education. What do you think the clue would be? Starve or steal? Nothing positive as you can think. Because, yes? Sorry, but I literally listened to all of you said, and you mentioned that we were evil and selfish, and you gave solution only for adopting privatization, even in rural areas when people are not even finding what to eat. So, okay. Clearly, there are no good consequences to inequality. Dear members of the government, don't you think that it's absurd that to look for good quality education, which is a fundamental right, you need to calculate how much money you'll be paying? I mean, isn't the fundamental right inherent to all humans, regardless of their gender, race, and social status? I'd love to ask you to look for some information before defending any position, even one as absurd and inhumane as this one. But well, clearly, you're not even considering facts and reality. Sure?
You're saying that they don't even find what to eat, and they don't find what to eat, they won't even find education. So that's a totally different point.
But education should be available to all. What are you saying? I'm sorry. Oh, how sad why you thinking like that. Many people wonder why Finland has been so consistent in being ranked first in education every other year. According to upgradeabroad.com, the Finland education system is based on the model of lifelong learning and equity in education. Learning is free and public funded, from pre-primary to higher education. To bridge the equity gap, Finland schools also provide free transportation system for students who reside in remote areas. So now, what do we expect from a country providing all good conditions to students except amazing results? Finland, according to businessfinland.com, ranks in the top 10 most innovative countries in the world. I mean, you've looked for innovation, here it is. So as we can see, a non-privatized education can still enhance innovation while respecting fundamental rights and keeping equality. I see you comment your government members and tell me that this topic is about the Moroccan government. Well, let me tell you that our government education system is mainly based on the French system. So why not take a better example of inspiration like Finland and replace this older French system with our own innovation, with our own touch for the innovation we're all looking for. If we want to begin the change and the revolution, let's start by ourselves, our minds and our beliefs. This is why we're not going forward, the audience. It's because of this. Some people are still living in earlier centuries when money is power. We realize that no, our minds and ideas are the ones that matter the most, and that if we want change and if we want development, we need to start by education. A country like a home needs a strong base. Education is the rich soil where the roots of a nation go deep and strong. Privatizing education in Morocco hampers student performance and undermines progress, leading as a major obstacle. In the symphony of wisdom, Sonia Sotomayor's notes ring clear like a well-tuned melody. Until we reach equality in education, we can't reach equality in the larger society. Thank you.
Dear leader of the opposition, in the POI I gave you earlier, you gave examples with current private schools and how there's no aids nor scholarships in current private schools, while our educational system is majoritizing public ones. So we're talking about a future where there's more private schools than public ones. Dear Deputy Leader of Oppositions, surveys are conducted on a minority. We are talking about our whole country. And dear opponents, all of you, please have the minimum amount of respect and try not to laugh at my teammate while he's answering your POIs that sometimes don't make sense. And then you'll maybe be able to hear out some arguments. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable jury, dear opponents, good morning. Overcrowded classrooms, lack of resources and funding, low paychecks. What are these, you may ask? These are the countless problems our educational system is facing right now. And no one seems to bat an eye. Today is about...
How do you address concerns about the rising cost of education in privatized system?
As I said, there will be aids and scholarships. People will be able to afford them once all the money that's put through public education will like be given to people to like to better the quality of life in Morocco. Like that's how people are going to be able to pay private schools. Like the whole 16.4% of our funds are going into public education. So imagine all those 16.4% of our funds going into people's pockets rather than public education. That's what privatization means. Because if you did your research, you'll understand that. Thank you. Now, think of all the students who flee the country for a better education. Imagine a Morocco where higher education isn't a problem and where higher education isn't a problem and its quality doesn't make students flee away. Rather, an educational system that makes them want to stay and fight for their country. Because the place to start will always be education, and no matter how much we'd like to or we'd want to.
POI, how can you be so sure that private schools' costs won't go up and that the government or whatever you're talking about will be able to constantly support the poor ones with your scholarships?
Yeah, why would they go up when a whole 16%...
inflation, for example.
Okay, why? 16.4 of our funds, which is like billions and billions of dirhams, are going to go into people's pockets. And you're telling me that people are not going to be able to pay that. That's, I'm sorry, that's your fault if you can't understand simple math.
Okay.
Oh my God, don't you see what good privatization can do, especially right now? It would allow millions and millions of students who are doing nothing but waiting for these protests to end to finally get a chance at a future at least. And I can already see you coming, dear opponents, telling me that they don't have enough money, and you already did, that they don't have enough money, that they can't afford sending their kids there. But I won't waste my time telling you how we, as humans, are not out of solutions. Because we've all been given brains for a reason, then use it. I refuse to stand still like you're advising us to do and do nothing because we've been still for decades. And look where it got us. Lower than what can be considered low. So aim for a better future. Through privatization, aim better, aim higher. Sorry. The inequality you recklessly talk about has been there for years, but yet this is the moment where you show an ounce of caring. I'm sorry, but the truth is, that is nothing but cowardly. Thank you.
If you can't afford private schools, tough luck. Wow. It's almost as if we stumbled into the plot of a bedtime story rather than a debate grounded in reality. Sweet dreams, everyone. Well, it's been quite the journey listening to how privatization is the education superhero cape. If only our problems could be solved by capes, but we live in a world where a snazzy outfit won't fix everything. And let's not forget that behind the glitter and glam of privatization, there's still homework to be done. Dear audience, can you truly claim progress when education becomes a marketplace? Education, a right or a price tag, which legacy are we leaving for our future? Now, a very good morning to one and all present here, dear audience, respected juries, fellow rivals. Envisioning the aftermath of privatization in our country, Morocco would witness a starkly divided educational landscape, transforming schools from avenues of social progression into mechanisms that perpetuate and solidify inequality. Members of government, you claimed over and over that privatization is the way to boost overall school performance. It seems like you might have walked past a lot of significant consequences. Time for a reality check, perhaps. Your big idea to privatize education isn't just about improving it. It's going to make social inequality worse, as my teammates already stated, and will create... Yes?
You're saying that privatization will make social inequalities worse while they're already there and they're already getting worse as we're speaking. And I'd like just to ask you, what are the solutions you're proposing to us? If not privatization, what's the solution?
Okay, I'm coming to that point. We'll create a gap in education, giving better opportunities to rich students and leaving others behind, whether you accept it or not. Just by privatizing education, you'll deprive a very large category of students from their fundamental rights: education, freedom from discrimination, equality. And we're talking millions of students because, according to MoroccoWorldNews.com, over 6 million students go to public schools while just under 1 million go to private ones. And also, according to RightToEducation.org, even the United Nations Committee on the Rights of the Child indicates that Morocco's choice to allow inequality and segregation in the educational system through privatization goes against human rights standards. Governments must ensure that quality education is accessible to all, regardless of socioeconomic backgrounds. Striking a balance between private and public education systems is crucial. Their rivals, you can't seem to understand that one of the reasons why many Moroccan children are able to go to school today is because of the social incentives provided by the government. You are simply refusing to acknowledge the importance and the purpose of public institutions. As Gandhi once wisely said, education which does not mold character is absolutely worthless. And what better way to mold character than by creating a system where one's education is directly proportional to the thickness of their wallet? This privatization we're talking about today poses significant risks that we cannot afford to ignore. And as we contemplate the future of our educational system, we must focus on improving and investing in our public schools, using at least 4% of GDP, for example, ensuring that they have the resources, infrastructure, and qualified personnel needed to provide a high quality for all. I get that you want the Moroccan education system to change for the better. So do we, but trust me, not every change is an improvement. But every improvement, on the other hand, is necessarily a change. Education was never meant to be a transaction, but rather an investment in every child's future. When did we confuse the two? We do not mess with human rights. We do not mess with humans' dignity. We do not mess with humans' education. And with that being said, I would love to finish off with this quote. A child without education is a bird without wings. Thank you.
Those were 5 seconds of silence. Unfortunately, I couldn't stand here for a minute without a word, because then I wouldn't be able to announce the tragic death of pragmatism and long-term thinking. If the world's very poorest are fleeing public education for more tailored, accountable private schools, then maybe it is time we admit that private schools are no longer privileges of the rich. This has long been understood, whether in New York or in Nairobi, but apparently still not the other side of this scene. Corruption in education can be defined as the systematic use of public office for private benefits, whose impact can be significant on access, equity, and quality of education. I believe we should be actors of change. I believe we should give solutions. We should unveil the sad truth. The problem is not the privatization. The real issue is corruption. Thank you.
First of all, as an answer to the Deputy Prime Minister, what you said is completely irrelevant, given that we all are private school students against privatization. And for the government whip, I assure you, we can understand simple math. But what you can't understand is the simple human rights. We must recognize that education is not a luxury to be rationed. It is a societal bedrock that should be accessible to all. Our goal should be a dance floor where every student, regardless of their economic standing, can gracefully navigate the steps towards a brighter future. Thank you.
Hearing these interventions was a tough job, making me question if they ever took a step, if they ever took a step into a public school classroom. Have you witnessed the worn-out walls, the tables resembling minefields, and the chalkboards that look like shooting targets? You need to experience the harsh reality that our public school classrooms face. These are not just metaphors, they are the tangible struggles that our public school classrooms face. Beyond the visible problems, there's an insidious problem that remains: bullying. Approximately 28% of students at ages 8 to 12 reported being bullied on school grounds, according to data compiled in 2009 by the National Center of Education Statistics. Of those, a higher percentage of public school students than private. Translating this into a Moroccan context, we can see similar issues persisting, affecting students in public schools, with the incidences notably higher. And since you failed to propose logical solutions, we came with privatization.
Government SWIP, you said aim higher. Yes, aim developing public schools. Ladies and gentlemen, the choice is now yours. On my right, a path that promises competition, innovation, and performance, but a path that only promises and doesn't deliver. A path with a dead end. On my right, the path of righteousness, one that assures equity, compassion, and shared prosperity. A path that leads to a world where in a classroom... Yes? No, there's no POI in the second intervention. A path that leads to a world where in a classroom, every child deserves a seat, not just those with wallets heavy and elite. Choose wisely between a path that speaks loudly and one that acts silently. Thank you.
It's honestly irritating. Irritating that we try to give solutions and you're denying them without giving us reasons. And instead, you're coming here acting all childish, talking about some, you called me rude, you called me selfish. We are here to debate, we are here to try to find solutions. And here I want to talk about competition, because competition will compel private schools to focus on quality education to attract students. This could lead to investments in qualified teachers, advanced learning resources, and modern facilities, ultimately raising the overall standard of education. Competition will drive private schools to find cost-effective ways to provide quality education, potentially making it more affordable for a broader range of families. And as American speaker and author Simon Sinek once said, competition is the fuel that ignites innovation. So let there be innovation, let there be competition, and let there be evolution, and let's drive Moroccan education to greatness. Thank you.
Laughing? I'm sorry, but are we joking? You were literally asking me irrelevant question just to waste my time. I can see that you really have nothing to say. Maktoum Abdullah emphasized free access to education, crucial for societal growth, as he noted in his UNICEF TED talk, stating, education is the way to gain skills, tools, and power for change. This aligns with the vital role of equity in education. Unfortunately, our government members are still not willing to grow, to change, and sadly even to resonate. Dear audience, can you notice their lack of concern for their country's well-being? Despite challenges, it is better to face them now than never change. As Gandhi wisely said, be the change you wish to see in the world. So, to evolve your country and society, please start by changing your minds. Thank you.
It's funny, isn't it? Really funny to see private school students going against privatization. That's really, really funny. And talking about funny, you've been laughing when you asked the POI to my dear teammate Yasin Fuluqi, and like
I didn't ask any POI.
you asked, well, one of your friends asked the POI and you've been laughing about it. So concerning the financial problems, we talked about it. There will be scholarships, financial aids, and just if you put the little to no amount of thinking in it, you'll realize that the real problem is up here. The real problem is in our mentalities. So we shouldn't keep lying to ourselves. Our dear opponents love to do that, knowing that arguments are clearly on our side here. Thank you.
In Morocco schools, let's keep things fair. Privatization sounds cool, but not everyone's there. Some get left out, dreams left behind. Let's choose a path where everyone can find. Education for all, a simple, strong decree. No need for fancy words, just plain equality. In shared learning, strength takes hold, a future bright, a story to be told. Making schools better, a good intention, but leaving some kids out isn't our convention. No exclusivity, let the rhyme be clear. In the song of learning, everyone should cheer. Thank you.